I repeat, let that concealer dry down for a second before you just go right in and start trying to blend it. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing a super simple, super easy, soft beat makeup look using all drugstore products. Yes, this face is 100% drugstore products. So if you want to know how I achieved this super easy and simple, soft beat, natural makeup look using only drugstore products, make sure that you stay tuned. This is probably $40 worth of products, and that's with inflation. I just wanted to show the girls that you could do a full face of makeup very affordably, very much on a drugstore budget. So let's get right into it. Okay, so first things first, this doesn't really have anything to do with the makeup, but it does kind of have something to do with the makeup. Please brush those lashes out. And this is as much a note to myself as it is to anybody else, because I'm very much guilty of not brushing my lashes out. I'm starting with a primer. This is the Ulta Beauty Hydrating Face Primer with coconut water for hydration. So this is actually my first time using this, and I think I got this as a gift from Ulta when I bought something there one time. I've had it for a really long time and just like never used it. And the reason why I've never used this before is because I'm typically an oily girl. So when it comes to primer, I actually typically prefer a mattifying primer. This is very, very hydrating. Like, I feel like I look oily already. This is the trick to get rid of a little bit of that shine. I'm taking this Makeup Revolution banana powder, and I'm just pressing that into my skin and my T-zone. And that just kind of dries it out and gets rid of some of that shine, because that was just a little bit too shiny for me. Now, if you have dry skin, I feel like you would really love that primer, but I know how my skin is gonna act, and I don't need my makeup to be slipping and sliding all over the place. So that's it, we're primed and we're ready to start our makeup application. I have a little bit of acne and hyperpigmentation from years of having had acne. My skin has made significant progress. If you've been watching my vlogs, then you would know that. But there is still, like, I'm a little bit broken out here. I'm gonna take this Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer. And this is in the color 142 Golden. In my opinion, this is the greatest drugstore concealer of all time. Definitely the greatest one that I've ever had. I'm gonna take this flat concealer brush, add it up there and get some of the product on the brush. And then I'm just going to tap it onto the places that I want to cover up. Okay, so once I have the concealer just kind of dotted on all the places that I want to cover up, I go in with the same flat concealer brush, and then I just gently tap and just blend that concealer in a little bit. It doesn't have to be totally completely blended. You do want to like pat it down a little bit to do what you're trying to do, which is cover up the hyperpigmentation, but it doesn't have to be totally and completely blended, because at the end of the day, you're gonna go back over it with foundation. Immediately my skin looks a little more even. This is before we even go in with foundation. I'm using the L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Foundation in N6.5, which is neutral medium deep. You know what, I'm gonna put it directly on my face. I'm starting out with a little bit because remember, the goal here is a soft beat. We're not going for a full club beat. We're going for I'm going to brunch, I'm going to a luncheon, soft daytime beat. Okay, so then I'm gonna go in with my beauty blender. This is not the official beauty blender. This beauty blender is from e.l.f. and I think it was like $5. And I actually highly recommend this. This is my favorite beauty blender. I'm not just using this for the purposes of this being a drugstore video. I always use this beauty blender. Again, we're going for a soft beat. So I'm gonna use a beauty blender instead of a makeup brush or foundation brush to blend this in. And I'm basically just gently tapping that into my skin just kind of in a back and forth or like all over motion until that's all the way blended out. This foundation is a little bit sheer, which is what makes it good for like a soft beat kind of look. If you need a little bit more coverage, then I believe it is buildable, so you can go in and add some more, which I might do like right along here. I typically go in a little bit more lightly with foundation on my forehead because again, my forehead is actually a little bit darker than like my cheek area. So if I put too much foundation on my forehead, it can look, I just don't like the way that it looks. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I feel like I need just a little bit more coverage just right here. So I'm gonna take like half a pump, not even, just one little dot of foundation directly on the beauty blender, and then I'm just pat that in right here. I like to go in over my eyebrows with just like a damp, I actually should have did eyebrows first, but with like a damp little towelette just to remove makeup product from my eyebrows to make it easier to do my eyebrows. Once that's blended in, I'm gonna go back in with the same Maybelline concealer and then just put it here under my eye and then here under my eye. Because we're going for a soft bead, I'm not gonna do the whole triangle under my eye and drag it down and do all that. I'm not doing all that. Because again, the point is like a soft bead. And I'm gonna put a little bit on my chin, a little bit on my forehead, and then bring it down my nose. Let me give y'all a pro tip. If you know me, this is my favorite makeup tip. Let that concealer dry down for a few seconds before you go in and start blending. I repeat, let that concealer dry down for a second before you just go right in and start trying to blend. Because what's gonna happen is when you try to blend freshly placed concealer or concealer that's still wet, that hasn't dried down just a little bit, it's going to move around all over the place, and it's not gonna offer you a lot of coverage because it's gonna spread out instead of like packing into where you want it to be packed in. If you don't take nothing else away from this video, please let your concealer dry down just a little bit. It doesn't have to be completely dry, but just a little bit so that it's, I don't know if tacky is the right word, but so that it's not loose and still wet. Just let it dry down for a second and then you can go in and blend it. So while my concealer is air drying, I'm gonna go in with the NYX Control Freak brow gel. This is a clear brow gel. This is another product that I've repurchased and repurchased. I'm just brushing in an upward motion on my brows. And at the tail, I just brush it down a little bit. Now that my concealer has dried down a little bit, I'm gonna go in with my beauty blender and I'm gonna blend out the concealer on my chin, my forehead, and my nose. One thing about this concealer, it blends in really well. It blends out really quickly and really well. To blend out the concealer under my eye, I'm taking this Real Techniques, oh here we go. It's the Real Techniques Crease Prep Brush. This is so good for concealer because it's a small brush. It really gets in there and blends it out to avoid creasing. So I'm just gonna take it and just gently tap. I start on like the outer corners of where the concealer is and drag it a little bit over and up. I put a little bit too much concealer right here on the outer corner. I'm just gonna go back in with my beauty blender and just take the side of it and just push that in. And then right along the bottom, I'm gonna take the back of the beauty blender, which has a little bit of like my foundation residue on it, and just pat that like that. And that's how you fix when you put on too much concealer. Same thing with the other side. Start with like the outer corners of where the concealer is placed. and then drag it outward and upward. To set my concealer, I'm going back in with the Makeup Revolution banana powder. I know banana powder can be a little bit controversial for some people. I use banana powder and I like banana powder because banana powder works for me. And this to me is a very good banana powder, very good affordable banana powder. This was like $7. Using the same beauty blender, I'm using the pointy end. And I'm gonna just tap that under my eye on both sides. It's not 2014, so I do not bake under my eye. I just go in and put it there and then I press it in immediately. And do the same thing with everywhere else that I place my concealer. So chin, nose, forehead, and then blend them all out. If I was doing a fuller face of makeup or I was going out at night or something like that, then I would go in with like a cream or liquid concealer. I'm not going to do that because this is brunch. It's a daytime vibe and we're doing a soft beat. So I'm going to take this Beauty Gems face palette. I'm going to go in with the bronzer. And I'm going to use this Styleworks, I guess, buffing brush. I got this from Bed Bath & Beyond like years ago, but this is like my favorite brush. I'm going in with this bronzer right here. I'm gonna tap off the excess. Do this with my cheeks, and then go right under my cheeks, and just basically tap that back and forth. And then I'm gonna do the same thing along my jawline. And then I drag it under my chin also. I'm gonna take a little bit and go around my forehead. For my brow pencil, I'm using the NYX Micro Brow Pencil in the color Espresso. NYX is really one of the superior drugstore makeup brands, like in terms of variety, product quality for what you pay. I will say NYX is definitely at the top of the list. I'm gonna just go in and try to make some like hair-like brow strokes. Everybody does their brows differently. My brows are very thin and fine, so how I do mine and how the next person does theirs is probably not gonna be the same. Just going in, following along the lines, like my natural brow shape. I just add some strokes and then I brush it out. Add some strokes and then I brush it out until it looks like what I want it to look like. And remember, girls, your brows are sisters, they're not twins. So 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna come out looking exactly the same. Do not stress yourself out about that. That is completely normal. Once I do my brows, I go back in with the same concealer. And then I take my angled concealer brush. This one is from Morphe. It's the M165. Dab it at the top of the concealer. And then I trace underneath my eyebrows with it. Like literally just follow my eyebrows and then I drag that down. I don't go in with a lot of concealer for this because again, we're going for a soft beat look. So I don't want halo brows on a soft makeup look because that's not a soft makeup look. And then same thing on the other side. Once I blend that out underneath my eyebrows, I take the same concealer, dab it, like one dab on each eyelid, not too much. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit because again, let your concealer dry down for a second. While it's drying down, I'm going to take this Juvia's Place Afrique blush in the shade Serafina. I'm gonna take my Ulta Beauty cheek brush. And lightly dab that in there, and again, beat off the excess. You need to be beating off that excess product to prevent fallout or to prevent going in too heavy-handedly with a product initially. Like, you can always build and add more if you need to, but once you add too much, it's harder to fix. Fake smile. Like, you know when you see your neighbor in the elevator that you really don't like? Fake smile. And then just dot that on the apples of my cheeks. This blush is actually very pigmented, especially for a drugstore blush, so be careful. Unless you really like a lot of blush, which in that case is fine. So I go in and add it there, and then I usually will go in with like my fingers and just tap that in. The blush is blushing, honey. I take a little bit on my finger and just put it right at the top of my nose. You really can't even see it. Now that my concealer has been drying down on my eye a little bit, I'm going to take the same flat concealer brush from earlier. And I'm gonna just blend that out in my eye just by tapping it like that. I'm using the Maybelline Master Strobing Stick Highlighter in the color Medium Nude Glow 200. I've actually had this for years and I don't use it that often, so I don't even know if they still sell this. I feel like this may have been discontinued, but you could probably find it on Amazon. So if so, I'm gonna link it in my storefront. In 2023, I don't do too much with the highlighting. I'm very minimal with the highlighting. Sometimes you can skip it all together, but I do go in with just a little bit and tap it along the top of my cheeks, right above my blush. Like, you can barely see that. And then I'm gonna just blend it out with this e.l.f. highlighter brush. You could definitely leave your eyes like this, your eyelids like this if you want to. I think I'm going to go in. I'm gonna show y'all a little trick that I use really all the time. I'm going to take this. This is a brush that I got off Amazon. Basically, it's a fluffy blending brush. I'm gonna go in with that same shade that I use for bronzer. And then basically just blend that into my crease, just to give a little bit more depth to my eyes. Like, you know, just so that my eyes don't look flat and plain with the concealer. And so you can see the difference a little bit in my eyes. I also think that it helps with like getting rid of some of that shine. Because again, I'm oily, so I think when I go in with this like eyeshadow or bronzer as eyeshadow, it kind of absorbs some of that oil from the concealer on my eye. And so it looks a little less shiny. I'm gonna do a brown eyeliner. I'm using the Wet n Wild eyeliner. I use a regular standard eyeliner pencil. I do not know how to use liquid liner, so if you're looking to learn how to use liquid eyeliner, this is not the channel for you. But I'm gonna just go in and trace my waterline with that. For my lips, I'm gonna go in with the NYX Suede Matte Lip Liner in the color Downtown Beauty, which is a brown. Along my lips. I actually been just overlining my lips a little bit because I like the way it makes my lips look a little more plump. Not a lot, just a little bit of overline. In the center of my lips, I'm gonna go in with the Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink in the color 55 Driver, or Driver 55. This right here, bomb. This is actually my favorite lip combo. Like, Even if I wasn't doing a drugstore makeup tutorial, I would still be using this lip combo. This is like the Perfect Nude Lip. And it's very pigmented. So I don't use a lot. And I really just put it a little bit in the center. And then just kind of until it blends out. I'm also going to put a gloss over my lips, but first let me go in with the setting spray because I usually add my gloss after I set. Now it's time to set my makeup. For setting spray, I'm going to use the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. The GOAT of any drugstore setting spray is the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. If you don't buy no product from this tutorial, buy this setting spray. Okay. So I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna come back and finish my makeup off with my gloss and show y'all the final look. All right, I'm back. This is the final makeup look. I went and added my gloss off camera, which is the Maybelline Lifter Gloss in the shade 002 Ice. This gloss is a really good dupe for Fenty Gloss Bomb in my opinion. This is the final makeup look. So yeah, this is it, girls. This is a super simple drugstore soft beat makeup look. Anybody can do this. Anybody can afford this. Very cheap, very easy, very simple. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you guys want me to do another makeup tutorial, let me know what you guys want to see in the next one. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.